Welcome back, friends. Today I have something a little different. I'm working in my, I think it's called the Dylusions journal, and I'm just going to mostly paint. You are seeing me cutting a piece of deli paper that I will collage in later, but I'm going to just stretch myself a little bit by doing a little abstract painting in my journal, something totally outside of my comfort zone. So I hope you'll join me for this slightly different type of subject. So I started out with just paint that was already on the table because I had just finished a gel printing session. And so I figured, okay, the paint's already out. Let's just start there because these are the under layers anyway. I am going to be doing more and more layers on top. And, I always hate this process because it always looks like such a mess. In the beginning, in the middle, they always call it the messy middle. I think it's messy from the very beginning. I can't get over how horrible it always looks. But in the end, I was very happy with the way this came out. I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but like I said, I'm really outside my comfort zone here. My paintings are usually well planned. They're not just, let's just grab some paint and start making some marks. That's not how I work. So this is an exercise in allowing me to try different techniques that I don't normally do. And one of the reasons why I want to do this is because the backgrounds of my paintings are going to start changing. I am going to be doing a lot more things. Like right now I'm starting with collage, but maybe in the end it'll be an abstract painting in the background. But I will still do figurative work and other types of things. Maybe even some animals. But I am definitely in an evolution stage of my work right now, and so I'm all over the place. And I'm just constantly trying new things because I never know where that's going to take me. If I try something new in this journal today, then it may end up in my next work of art. So this is a way of, just trying out new things. And I don't always do this on camera, but I thought, let me record this anyway, and if I like the way it comes out, I'll share it. So that's where we are today. And I did buy some acrylic inks recently, so I thought, okay, let's play with that. Let's just add it on a bottom layer. Let's dab it a little bit. Let's see where this goes. Do love a color shaper. I will tell you, I love it on the plate as well, but I do love a color shaper. Discovered that just a couple of years ago and absolutely love it. Bought a couple of new ones recently. Anyway, so I thought I would just keep going even though I absolutely hate this right now. Let me know in the comments below if you ever feel like this when you're working, where you're just like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? But, I'm trying to work with some of my favorite colors, but I don't want this to be this super bright thing in the end. But I am still thinking in terms of like I normally do. Where's my contrast? What are my values? Obviously shapes. But I'm doing a lot of, on the underlayers, a lot of rectangles and some odd shapes with the color shaper. But for the most part, I'm sticking almost like to a grid on I guess this medium layer, this middle layer. So anyway, I figured I'd lay down some dark color. This is Payne's Gray. Let's lay some dark colors and then we can lay light colors on top of that. And I'm trying to also like mix some colors on my palette so that I'm not, even though my bottles are already somewhat mixed, but I thought let's add some additional mixtures here. And, in the end, there's so much like quinacridone red and orange and yellow on this so far, but trust me, in the end, there's very little of it. But I'm also like using the color shaper in different ways in hopes that, I'll find something interesting. Like when I laid down that white that's kind of towards to the right of the gutter, it kind of skipped a little bit and gave me something interesting there. I also noticed if you lay it down more sideways, you get more of an opaque, especially if it's an opaque color. But then even if it's an opaque color, if you go to the very tippy top of your, to the point of your color shaper, even titanium white can be transparent. It's almost like laying down the color and scraping it at the same time. So that was something that I didn't realize before, I don't think, or at least I didn't make a mental note of it. When I'm working like this, I'm trying to make mental notes of new things that I'm noticing, because this is all about learning. So right now this might be the messy middle. This is like really, like I looked at this and I said, oh geez, where am I going with this? This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Anyway, I thought I would try something else by scraping into it. That didn't work. Maybe because I'm on paper. But anyway, I'm just going to keep going and see where it takes me. So I'm mixing a little bit of a muted pink because I need some other tones. That's still kind of like too mid-tone-ish for me. It's not really working. But like I said, trying something new. I really do love the tip of that color shaper, if you haven't noticed. So even though I wasn't really happy with that color, I decided to keep going with it. And this was another color shaper that had like a sculptured tip, I guess you might say. And I was trying to use it to make some shape there, but like it just, not everything is working here. But I am liking some of these muted colors that I'm adding in here, especially when I go over a dark color with it. That area at the top on the right hand side where I added that muted teal, I love what happened with the Payne's gray undertones. And I also love with the color shaper when you have some color from the previous thing that you were working on and it's also like sort of smearing with it. So you can really see my grid now, right? So I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with this grid yet. And I'm still thinking in terms of this just being under an underpainting, the real composition is going to be on top of this. So now I'm going back to some brighter colors again. I'm using full strength quinacridone red, not mixed, because I realized I didn't have any of that in here. And some of this will show and some of it will not on the final piece. It's definitely a color I love. The transparency of it is just so fantastic. So I didn't really notice it until now doing this voiceover that a lot of my grid is kind of too much the same size. But since it's the underpainting, it's really okay. I love that orange that I'm bringing in. This was a recent, I think it's Orange that I got from Nova Color. I just got it like a week or two ago. Usually when I'm working with orange, I'm mixing, maybe Indian yellow with a quinacridone red to make it, but I'm really happy with this color. So you'll notice there is no white or just very little peeking in between, but that was because my plan was to create a composition with white at the end. And it's not pure white. I want it to be sort of a dirty white. I want it to have these other colors in there. I want it to sometimes look like there's a little yellow in the white or a little blue in the white, a little gray in the white. And I'm still not 100% sure what the composition is and whether I want sharp edges or very soft. So I'm doing a little bit of both and then I'm going to decide. I wasn't even sure I wanted it to be totally opaque. And I did wait for this the underpainting to mostly dry, but you will see that in some cases the white mixes with the color, and that's because it was still slightly wet. So my acrylic ink is like nowhere to be found. I think there's just one little teal spot on the left page that survived, but at least I got to use it and see how the paper reacted. This isn't watercolor paper, it's a mixed media paper, I think. It is holding up, I would say. The Dylusions journal holds up to wet medium really well. It is a thicker paper. It's a great journal for collage, but this is the first time I'm actually doing paint in here, so I'm happy with the way it's like holding up. So you'll notice that sometimes I'm going more on a diagonal, so that's to give like tension with that grid in the background. I'm trying to be very free form with this, no plan. I'm also trying not to get too in love with a particular section. If I feel that the white needs to be covering it up, I'm just going to cover it up. So then I have this teal that I had mixed up, and I added white to it. I really wanted to make sure it was very opaque. It is an opaque color to start with, but I wanted this to also be opaque. And it was a good color to choose to go with those colors underneath, especially like on the left side, that section, that blue and green section is like darker. I love the way it looks with this particular shade of teal, this light teal. So I'm kind of making shapes with the green, thinking more in terms of shapes than I was with the white. And that is more of a yellow green. Also Nova. think the only paint that wasn't Nova was the white. I still have like a bottle of golden fluid, so I just happened to have that on the table and I picked it up. So I'm liking how these colors look together. You probably cannot tell, but I did add a little bit of that teal to the yellow green. Ever so slightly. So I think this was like a stage where I was kind of overthinking a little bit. But I stopped and I was letting it dry, and then I picked up the Posca pen and I tried to just draw some lines. I wasn't happy with the Posca pen. So, but then I started thinking I wanted to sort of square off some of this a little bit, have slightly, not sharp edges, but I wanted it to be a little bit more opaque. So I pulled out the color shaper again. So I'm just, you'll see they kind of get a little more hard edged, but not like I drew it hard. Still going for some diagonals here, you know. I do like the introduction of the black lines, so you'll see in a minute how I enhance that. So you might also notice how the white is becoming more opaque with the color shaper. And I actually like the fact that I cannot be too precise with the color shaper because of the size. I did buy a smaller one, so I could have used the smaller one and I could have had a little more control, but I, on purpose, didn't want to have too much control. So if you watch my channel because you like jelly printing and you're trying to get better at it, just know that you can also do something like this and then incorporate your gel prints. That's another thing that you can do to practice your art skills, is combining painting with collage. So that's a catalyst wedge that has like little notches in it. So I thought I would, see if I could pull down some of that paint. It worked. It kind of gave me a different result. So I love experimenting. I don't know about you, but I think it's so important. Doesn't mean that anybody needs to see it. I wasn't planning on anybody seeing this one, but why not? But I think it's important in the privacy of your own home, studio, wherever you work, to occasionally buy some new materials, some new art supplies, and try something different. Mix up colors that maybe you'd never used before. So here we go with the needle nose bottle. So I had decided I really liked the idea of the black lines. I just wasn't happy with the pen. So talking about unexpected things and not having control, these bottles, they're really hard to control. They bead up. And you just never know when you're going to get a blob, but I love that blob. So you're going to see a couple of blobs right here. I love that unexpected thing that happens that I don't have as much control. Yeah, drawing with these bottles is just a lot of fun. I recently, well, not that recently, about 6 months ago, I created this small painting. It's like a 12 by 12 collage of of a purse. It was actually I collaged the purse. I painted the background, and after I did the the purse needed like a black outline, and my original plan was to actually use my digital image and somehow transfer it over the collage, but I realized that wasn't going to work. And then I saw the needle nose bottle and I just picked it up and I started drawing on the canvas. I had no idea, or it was actually wood. I had no idea if it was going to work, but oh my God, I loved it in the end. Hate what I just did here, by the way, in these upper corners. Oh my goodness, what was I thinking? Already done, can't do anything about it. We're going to fix that though. But anyway, like I said, with these needle nose bottles, you really don't know how much, how well things are going to turn out with it because of that little blob that sometimes happens. So you have to just go with the flow and say you're going to work with the, with the irregularness of it. Is that a word? Anyway, so these were also from an earlier gel printing session. So I thought, actually, you'll probably see that video next week. I'm working with Tyvek papers, those little orange papers in the upper right-hand corner. You will see that video next week. But I loved these papers, and I thought it would be a good addition to this. And also those orange papers, since they were made on the same day and the paint happened to be on the desk, they're also going to be a way for me to reintroduce that color a little bit using, some interesting shapes. I didn't dislike it before this, but I liked it even more after I added just these little pops of color and these nice sort of fuzz. This is the ghost of one of my stencils, and yeah, the ghost was like the perfect intensity, if you know what I'm saying. It's got a lot of texture to it, and you could see through it a little bit. So I started out with the fluid matte medium. I don't know what I was thinking. The Tyvek paper did not want to stick. These orange bits are the actual Tyvek stencils that I created right on the spot, just cut them out randomly and used them to print with. And then I always love to collage with them after because they get some great paint on them. That one corner would not stick with the matte medium, so I pulled out some gel medium. This is the Liquitex gel gloss, which I love, and that worked really well. Love that shape. And I love how it's very different than everything else that's going on here. So the matte medium is the right consistency for the deli paper because it's a very thin paper. it just wasn't, I don't know if you realize this, but there's different kinds, different weights of gel medium. There's also a heavy body like gel medium that you could use if you have something that's more three-dimensional and more textured and you really need something strong. For these really thin papers, you can use the fluid matte medium. The one that I use, the Liquitex gel gloss medium, is like almost like a soft body as opposed to the fluid, but I can add a little bit of water to it to make it a little more fluid. So it's very versatile, but it still sometimes is not good enough for a strong textured piece of paper. And that's why I always keep a jar of the heavy body gel medium as well. So if you're new to collage, you might not be aware that there are different consistencies, viscosities. Okay, so right now I'm just like spreading out the bubbles, making sure there's no air bubbles under that paper. And I obviously have some extra paper there, so I'm going to wait for that to dry a little bit and then try to trim it off. But in the meantime, let me tell you about something that's going on here at the studio. I am almost finished my course on how to make your own stencils and cut them with a Cricut. So if you're one of those people that really wants to make your own stencils, have it be your own designs, this will be the course for you. It's going to be my entry-level course. I've never done a course before, so because of that, I'm trying to keep the price very low. So it's actually the price of one of my stencils is going to be the cost of the whole course. So I think it's a really great deal. And if you own a Cricut, I show you how you can easily create your own designs and have all your gel prints be truly your own design. So I'll leave the link below. If you're interested, do like an early sign up, you'll get a discount. So I kind of like messed up that corner a little bit, so I added the other piece that I had cut off, and I actually like it better. So you really do have to wait for these papers to dry before you attempt to trim them off because they're so delicate, they are so thin. But anyway, here's all trimmed up, and I absolutely love it, especially now that it's been a couple of days and I'm looking at it again. I'm quite pleased with it. It might still be too bright. Maybe I should have toned down some of those reds and oranges, but I really like that you've got more muted colors on top, but then you've got this pop of color. So I'm happy with it. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to create, inspire, and share, and come again. I'll see you next time. And here's another video, more gel printing.